Hello, GoodHard story listeners. We are so glad you're here for this conversation with my dear friend and teammate Susan Robinson. We're so we're so pumped to get to talk about an important topic within this wonderful series, all about addressing our new normals in life, of which we were even saying right before, Susan, that this is applicable to everybody.
Yes, everybody.
Do you say applicable or applicable? Applicable to everybody.
Do you say gala? Do you say gala?
Yeah.
It's up to you.
That is the question. That's a joke because at our gala, I will say, my sons introduced Jeg and I and had a little banter about is it gala or gala. It was really cute. Anyway, today we are talking around living a life that you never imagined living. And what do you do with that? And what we were saying moments ago was that truly every adult understands that.
Yeah.
Every adult gets that. It is not just when tragedy strikes. It is a normal Tuesday that we're all living a life we didn't think we would be.
Well, I am not an astronaut, and that was one of my dreams as a kid was that I wanted to be an astronaut. That may sound silly, but a lot of times we don't even really know who we are when we're dreaming dreams. And it takes life and challenges and things being thrown at us to really discover in the depths of our soul who we are and what we want. Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk for a second about that, about how we all have dreams, ideas, visions of what we think we want our life to be when we're younger. And obviously you've hit on this in the past that you thought your life was going to look a certain way and you had these goals and these dreams and you had attained quite a few of those before your stroke happened.
Right.
So looking back, what were some of those things that you assumed about your life?
Well, it's so interesting. So I think I went through a lot of stages of I want to be a teacher and a nurse and all of that. But as my talents and skills that are, given to you by the Lord start to really come out when you're a bit older, your dreams get a bit more, hopefully, aligned to the skill set. And I was achieving a lot in the realms of theater, speaking, writing, and I don't know that I knew what my life would look like, but I knew I would somehow be doing a lot of that with my life. And what is so crazy is
you are,
but it looks completely different than we ever thought it would. And definitely I did not picture it, including a wheelchair.
Well, and as you were saying that, I was thinking, look at God, look how he took something like the stroke that in one way you say obliterated all of these childhood dreams.
Totally.
But it was actually the conduit that brought you to an even greater platform. I'm sure you never imagined the platform that you have now.
Oh my word.
When you were thinking.
It really is truly upside down kingdom craziness. Yeah. So my senior year of high school, I was best actress in the state of Georgia, which when you put that down, that's really about stage presence. So you have this crazy stage presence happening. I won the English award, got 5 on my AP exam, all of which were like kind of crazy because I'm not that great at English. But
I'd say you're very good at English.
Well, I don't know all that. Alex Wolf is very good at English. Jake Wolf is too. He went to law school and does it well. But sort of theater, stage stuff. I major in communication studies in college. I minor in Christian women's leadership. Like so much of my life teed me up for this life, honestly. But I was never headed to the direction of writing and speaking. Once again, it's crazy we're having this conversation today because a sweet friend of mine from Los Angeles was in town filming a movie here the other night. We went out to dinner with her, and her name's Abby, and she's actually like a quite famous actress. Abigail Spencer, kind of a big deal with you. Love you, Abby, if you're listening. And she said, I remember seeing you as a 24-year-old leading you and Jay leading our Sunday school class at church. We went to church together in California. And she said, I remember sending you an email afterwards and very tenderly saying, like, girl, you're trying to be in the wrong profession if you are not clearly a speaker. What the heck?
Yeah.
And that kind of landed, but then I kind of was like, but how do you be a speaker? I think, or I didn't know. So I just kept going to auditions and just booking like little random gigs. So I think I just kind of thought that's what this is going to look like.
Yeah.
My illustrious career. That's a joke. And then I spoke for our church women's retreat. While pregnant with James, so at 25 the next year. And Abby says, and I remember writing you a letter at that point and just saying, for real, like you have this crazy gift of communication. Why are you not using this? And then I had a stroke. And my face would become paralyzed, which if you know much of my story pre-stroke, part of like auditioning Los Angeles career was I did a lot of commercial print modeling. And so obviously that line of work was decidedly over when I
or was it?
Well, exactly. If you do know my story well, you know that wasn't the case. It wasn't over. I got my biggest modeling gig after having a paralyzed face because I became the face of the American Stroke Association.
Wow. I love that.
Anyway, that's definitely digressing to, yes, I had all these cool skills and dreams, I guess, but I just somehow knew like life's going to be really cool. Thankfully, praise God, I was not wedded to, I can only ever be this one thing or I'm just never going to be able to thrive.
Yeah.
I think maybe even as a child, the Lord had really instilled on me that you can kind of go with where you are in your life and use what's in the story. Forget what's not. Live into this.
That's a whole lesson in and of itself right there.
It really is. It's a hard one that we all are reeling with, like, I don't know what to do with my life. And the Lord's pretty clear. Use what's in your hand.
Be agile and responsive.
Absolutely.
Right? I want to loop back real quick, though, to something you said about Abby and how Abby was able to see things in you that you couldn't even see in yourself.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important for us to remember that sometimes our community can see a bigger picture around our own lives than we can, and how important it is for us to speak into each other's lives, to call out those gifts, to help people to see, like, you know, when I look at you, there's things that I can say to you that you may not even see about yourself today. But I want to encourage our listeners to speak into your friends' lives, speak into your family's lives. There's so much power in words. Really and so much power in encouraging other people.
And you do it so well. Oh my gosh.
Well, and I love that about Abby. And I love that now, and it's a joy to her because she gets to see decades later the things that she said and spoke, like how beautifully the Lord worked those things out. We
all had chills. Strangely, since we're talking about it, Abby is childhood friends with Jordan Johnson.
Oh my gosh.
Jeff and Jordan Johnson are also sitting there having dinner with us.
This is pretty wild.
This is wild. So we're at dinner. For those listeners who don't know, Jordan and Jeff Johnson are the worship leaders at our church, Passion City in Atlanta. And just huge cheerleaders and advocates for me. And they actually are the musicians some of the musicians at our camp.
Yeah.
So Abby is sitting there saying this to me in front of the people who are part of like the incredible entity that has uplifted my voice so well for years. So it's this weird,
look at the kingdom right there.
Right. Like really powerful moment. And Jordan and Abby have been friends since they're 5 years old.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love it.
I know. I think they were saying they've been friends for over 35 years.
Wow.
And then Abby and I have been friends for over 20 years. And I mean, it's just weird. The
That's
whole
incredible.
thing is crazy. But yes, to speak to what you're saying, I 100% agree that community can see things that you can't see. And community can be a part of saying back to you what you may not know and believe in that moment to be true. I mean, I have seen so much, and you've been such a beautiful part of this, both in Atlanta and when we were in California, the power of community and not even your best friends necessarily, just the power, I believe, of the body of Christ.
You're right.
But it is an expansive, spacious, uplifting when there is a crisis and there are 10,000 random people connected to your friends and family that are coming out of the woodwork. Yeah. And that's what happened to me. And I think it's a part of how I'm doing so well.
Praise honestly.
God. I really think it's a lot of we're going to share the burden because I believe you can bear the burden when you share the burden. And
look
that's
at
what happened to
you.
Me. Yeah,
the alliteration.
That's in Treasures in the Dark. So it's not an of the moment quote.
Well, we have talked about how childhood dreams kind of evolve and change into adult dreams.
Yeah.
But you don't quit dreaming as an adult. So I want to hear, what are some of your new dreams that you have right now for the years to come?
Oh gosh. Well, that is so interesting. So I love that you're asking me that because it is extremely hard for me. Jackie and I both really struggle with what's the 5-year plan for this or that in your life or for your ministry. And we're like, we don't know.
Well, is that because suddenly you had all these plans and the stroke intercepted that?
Our lives got decidedly blown up. So we don't know. We just know too much to think, well, it's going to work out just like you think. We just line up perfectly. Yeah, who knows? But I want to be someone who has a lot of dreams that I hold really loosely.
Okay.
I want to have like goals. I want to have, and I don't want that to stop at midlife. I'm 43 years old, and I want to always be dreaming about what the future holds. And I guess a few of my dreams, if you'd like to know, are that I live to be a grandmother, which I mean, I think I will, but you don't know. I could die tomorrow. Who knows? We all could. In some ways, you're right. So that would be big, but I would love to see my kids marry and have kids, but I think everybody wants. But I really do. I just want more of my dreams are more of all the things that are realities today. I mean that. Like I love our ministry, what I get to do. I love my work. I love just what the Lord is doing through this story. Goodness, I think one day maybe it will be time to not live in the heart of Atlanta and move out to the country. So maybe that's a dream.
All right.
I'll go live in the woods somewhere.
You have some chickens. And...
Whenever I'm at Hope Hills Camp in the summer, I'm always like, so I definitely want to spend my old age out in a cabin in the woods. This is the best. So
all right, let's find a plot and build a couple of houses out there together because that's a great dream.
I think so. I think if we have a Hope Hills Camp Ranch one day, we'll have a whole line of little properties and we'll just slowly move all the people down there.
We'll all have our old lady rocking chairs on the front porch.
Yes. I think it's a great thing.
I love it. I love it. I want to talk about some practical things for a second, though.
Okay.
You had this stroke and everything that was normal for you, like eating, showering yourself, walking, all of these things that maybe I wouldn't even consider that. Like it just is.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, those things that were so normal and routine are blown up.
Right.
So how during that season, before the full recovery, well, not full, before you were able to walk again and eat again, did you guys try to create a sense of normalcy? What can the people that are listening right now that are stuck in that in between, what are some things they could do to try to create a new normal?
One thing I think so naturally people do is feel like it's always going to feel the way it does right now in this moment. And I think recognizing that it's going to change. It's not always going to feel like this. That recognition is a game changer because you can survive the moment when you know the moment's changing.
Yeah.
And you survive the season when you know the season is changing. It took me 11 months to relearn to eat food. And this is kind of crazy. I don't know if you know this even, Susie, you probably do. But initially, when I was in UCLA acute rehab, the speech team prepared Jay that I likely would never eat food again. And he never told me that.
I know, yes.
So I am like killing it as speech therapies. I'm doing all the swallow exercises at home. I'm getting E-stim on my throat. I'm doing hyperbaric training. I'm just like throwing the kitchen sink at this because my thinking is, well, this is a season and this season's going to change and then I'll eat food again. And crazy to think about. What if I had not had that hope?
Yeah.
What if Jay would have told me, like, you're probably never going to eat again? Would I have had the same, like, intense, I'm going to crush this till I eat again deal? Or would I have been like, yeah, I'll do swallow exercises, but it's probably not going to work.
Right.
And I think part of the reason I could cope was because I just knew, I didn't, but oblivion is wonderful, that I would be able to eat again.
Yeah.
And I think in all of our stories, we can cope when we know there is hope.
Look at you. I love it. We're alliterating all day. It's amazing.
Hope while you cope. It's kind of a thing.
So was there like a specific moment when you remember accepting the way things were and kind of releasing the old normal, or was that more of a process for you?
It's hard to know what you decide and what happens to you.
Right.
It's complicated. For me, such a cool piece of my journey towards acceptance was going public with it.
Okay.
So talking about it all the time.
Right.
Knowing back to community that there's this growing community of people who are tuned into my story. And I felt a stewardship of that early on. For the listeners who don't know, my stroke was in 2008 and we did not launch Hope Heals till 2013. So I spent about 5 years kind of just in the darkness of hopefully more or less accepting the reality of the story and also like having major surgeries and just trying to be okay again. So I didn't like pop out of bed the morning after this happened to be like, I'm going to have this really cool ministry and speak about it all the time. No, I'm just like trying to get out of bed and live. But because it was 2008, it was like right when people were like starting to get on Facebook outside of college kids. And it was the iPhone came out in 2008. So there's this like explosion of all the things. This is still in the season when there's like traditional blogs happening.
That was a big thing, people, blogs.
Absolutely. So I did. And it was getting a lot of traction because
I read your blog.
People are tuning in going, is she going to learn to eat again?
Yeah.
Like,
it was amazing.
It was
really it was like cool. Our Netflix back then. Well, you get the new episode.
So what was so special was I was really living out loud. Mm-hmm. So I was really sharing. I felt like a deep stewardship. I really want to live this story well. Mm-hmm. Because there are a lot of people cheering me on, being encouraged. And in some ways it was probably kind of a messed up, like I got to be a good ambassador for Jesus, just being honest. I've dealt with a lot of that baggage. There's probably more in there. But I did feel, I think, a very healthy desire to leverage my life and to champion where I was in my story. But what happened is because of that sharing, I believe it changed my brain. Yeah. I believe it created new neural pathways. It made connections that weren't there. It really enabled me to see my life as a story God was writing. So how can I not be like loving the story? So I think it just did something extremely powerful to talk about it. And I've probably said it a million times, but it bears repeating again and again and again, that when we tell our stories to an empathetic listener, it changes how we feel about our story. And I've seen that since the very beginning of my story. And I think it has dramatically impacted how I've responded.
Yeah. And you do love your life.
I do.
You do love who you are now and what's going on. But I mean, the reality is that you probably missed some stuff from your life before too. What are some feelings around that?
Yeah, it's both. It's both and. I really do love my life on this side of the stroke and becoming disabled. But there are moments where I'm like, I really wish I could just go pick up my kids at school.
Yeah.
It's so annoying to have Jay drive everywhere for our kids. I hate that. I hate that if I want to book an appointment to get my nails done, I have to get my sweet husband chauffeur to take me there. So the driving is a big thing that I missed. And not so much that I miss loving driving. I don't care. The roads are safer because I'm not on them. It's a terrible driver. But more just I hate bothering him all the time.
You miss the autonomy that you have.
Yeah, that exactly. And it's really sad. I do not remember what it feels like to run. Which is weird. Okay. So I used to remember what that felt like, but now I can barely walk. So I definitely have never run and likely never will on earth. And it is sad that I can't even remember that sensation. Now, I never was some avid runner or anything like that. But I don't remember even what that would feel like. And it's just much harder to exercise. I mean, I don't break a sweat much these days. Like it doesn't work really well to move my body much, but I try. I'm doing my best. I always thought I would have a bunch of kids. Jay's mother's a family of 6 kids. My beloved grandmother, Amanda, was one of 6 children also. And I don't know, I just thought I will carry the mantle on. I'm a capable firstborn. Like, I'm going to have a bunch of babies. And here I am, and probably not going to have any more children. And I have 2. And 2 is awesome for all of you mothers of 2 or 0, whatever. But for me, I wanted a big family. And I had to grieve that. Like, I'm not going to have a big family. And that's sad. I wish I was. So I'm missing that. I didn't have that before, but I'm missing that opportunity now.
It's just good to remember that things can be good, but also still hard. And that things can be joyful and there's sorrow mixed in too.
It's kind of the name of the podcast.
Yeah, it is.
Love it. That, there can be really, really good things when there are also hard things. They coexist. 2 things can be true at
and
once.
We can talk about all of them. It doesn't discredit one or the other.
Amen. No, it doesn't.
So if you could go back in time and talk to pre-stroke Catherine, what are some things you might tell her?
Pre-stroke Catherine. I would tell her that you do not know how much capacity you have to hold really hard things. And I would say that is because of Jesus in your story. But I would tell her that you have no idea how much you can endure.
Right.
And I would have loved to hear that. I would have loved to tell her that she can dream new dreams, and she doesn't have to be bonded to what she thought it was going to look like. And I would tell her not to be afraid. I think there's so much fear about what could happen or dread or, I would just tell her live unafraid of what is going to be. And I would say you don't have to be wedded to the way you think things should go. Things can be crazy, and you can love it. I guess I would tell younger Catherine, like, you can just go ahead and pre-decide that you're going to have a great life, no matter what it looks like.
I think that pre-deciding is so powerful. So powerful.
Me too.
So in Treasures in the Dark, you talk about befriending the life that you have. How is befriending different than accepting?
I love that. So accepting, I don't know, but I would think is about like choosing to enter in and see what is real, like seeing it for what it is and owning it, maybe even. Acceptance probably about ownership. Befriending means learning to actually like it. Okay. I think it's so interesting that I don't say loving, just befriended. You kind of like it. Like, don't love this, just kind of see what happens. Like, you can hold hands with it. Just befriend. And I think it just kind of catches on. When you start to befriend, you can do more and more and more of that. Actually, a dear friend of you and I, Shelley Giglio, likes to say, just keep hugging it till you love it. Yeah. Just hug it till you love it. And I think there's a lot of power to that. Just stick in there and stay and see what happens. It's very applicable to our marriages.
Yeah. And I think that's really applicable to someone that's listening that may be feeling like stuck in a life that they don't recognize or understand. Would you have any more words of encouragement for friends that may find themselves in that place?
Absolutely. So I think everybody wants to get back to the life they had before tragedy struck, or before middle age struck, or before
having kids, or before being married,
before they became empty nesters, or whatever. But what if we stop doing that? What if we stop trying to get back to how it used to be and instead wake up to what is here now? I love that. I love Jeannie Stevens, an incredible pastor at Hope Hills Camp. And just she and Jarrett lead a church in Chicago and are amazing people. So Jeannie wrote a book called What's Here Now. And the byline of that book, the subject line that I love so much says, stop rehashing the past, rehearsing the future, and just receive the present. And I think that is our call, is to just receive what is. You've heard me talk about it before with that. What if is just the wrong question. What if? But the question is what is. What is in the story. And what are you going to do with what is in the story? Because so much can be taken away in our stories. I interviewed Megan Carnarius some weeks ago on the podcast, and she's a memory loss specialist, and she talks in her book about the fallout blessings of just Alzheimer's, memory loss, all dementia. And she talks about how, but there are these fallout blessings.
I love that language.
I love that so much.
I've experienced it. I know.
Yeah, absolutely. There are these deep gifts in just all the horrible stuff that's happened. We can call it horrible stuff went down, but it can be one day maybe called good.
Well, thank you for your transparency, friend.
Oh,
you have walked this road and given so many of us language for pre-deciding about how we're going to respond to things, because you've shared so much of your own life with us. So I just value you and treasure you, and I love this new normal that you're living, and I love that I get to live it with you.
Well, let me tell you and our listeners both, I love this new life too. And I just love so much getting to live it and be here to talk to you listeners that I can't see, and to my amazing, sweet friends who I can. And specifically Susan. If you're not me, you can't call her that.
That's
friends. Right. Susan, your life is amazing, and you are living it so well.
Thank you,
I'm just so grateful you're on our team with Hope Heals. It's so cool.
We love it.
Yeah, we do love it. And I'm grateful for each and every listener to this episode. I think this may be actually one of my very core messages of my life is, can you learn to love the new normal? And I believe you can. I absolutely believe we can all learn to love where we end up in life and thrive there. So thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you very soon.